What the Tech is brought to you by Text Expander. Text Expander helps you communicate smarter. Visit textexpander.com/podcast for 20% off your first year. Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Serena. Of course, I'm joined by Mr. Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good.
Man, what a weird week it's been for me.
Yeah, what's going on?
I had like 500 things to do for like work, and it's just like this week I was like, "There's no end in sight. It's over, man. There's no freaking end in sight." I'm expecting my check to be cut any day now.
Yeah.
All the hope that I had about getting back to work sometime this summer, not happening.
Right.
Yeah, so here we are today doing a podcast. It's just been a crazy week, and then just crazy. I have no other words. I had a very bizarre phone call about an hour ago regarding domain names and canceling domain names.
Which are apparently incredibly expensive where you come from.
Yeah, incredibly expensive where I come from. So I've been trying to offset some of that confusion in that phone call. Paul, how you been? Good?
I don't even know what to say anymore. You know, it's just the same thing over and over again. It's okay.
You could comment on this tan that I have going.
Okay. Can
I tell you what happened? I'm going to tell you this. Yeah,
you fell asleep in a tanning bed?
Paul called it a Trumpian skin tone, which I agree with him. Mm-hmm. I'm somewhat orange here. I'm tan, but I'm orange. And before we go into the tech news, I know everybody's wondering about my tan. I messaged my wife 2 days ago and I said, I'm going for the ultimate tan this year. All I'm going to do is lay out, get tan, have a couple cocktails in the afternoon. That's been my schedule. So I noticed that I plateaued with my tan. So I went and I decided I plateaued. I wasn't getting any tanner. That was it. I'm full.
Were you thinking you would get so dark you couldn't tell you had a beard? What was the end game?
Yeah, I don't know. I want to see what happens. I want to see how long I could go. So I bought this tanning, like ultra darkening tanning oil. I did not know that it's a self tanner, and it's actually a tanning. It's not a tanning oil, but it's a self tanner, so it actually dyes your skin.
I was going to say it's a skin dye.
This is my hand. Look at my hands. It's obscene. This is ridiculous.
You need to be immersed in some kind of a deep cleaning liquid.
So my wife's upstate right now with the kids. So I told her she has a surprise waiting for her when she comes home, and it's going to be this complexion of orange.
She's going to be so happy.
She's going to be so happy with me. Another day filled with embarrassment for Jess.
Right.
A lot's going on. Actually, I have a lot of construction going on, and I'm starting to do, I want to talk about this. I'm starting to switch out everything now to smart switches, which gets a little pricey. I'm doing that.
Yeah. Yep.
And I do every year I do an inventory of all the electronics that I have. So I started doing that also, which we'll talk about. It might be time to get rid of those iPad 2s. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
I think we're at the point that they're unusable, which it's happening. But we have that to talk about and a whole bunch of other stuff, obviously. 2 weeks ago when we did the show, we skipped last week. Summer schedule, guys. We were talking about Apple and everything that they've been doing and the move to ARM, to move to their own chipsets. Has there been any other news out? I find it bizarre that there's really been nothing much after that announcement.
Well, I mean, but that makes sense, right? So they kind of dropped a bomb. And now it's like, well, we just wait until, they release something. I mean, we're kind of done. But the big thing that's happened in the last week is that Jean-Louis Gasset, a former Apple executive, also the founder of B Inc., right? The other company that might have become Apple's next generation operating system when they bought Next instead. They were the other finalists. I talked about this on Windows Weekly, but I mean, this guy has been blogging since at least the late 1990s, possibly earlier. And I've always been fascinated by his opinions. I respect the guy. I think he's smart. And he still blogs. And today he blogs on Medium. And I routinely, he's one of the guys I kind of, I guess, subscribe to, or whatever the term is. So I see his stuff a lot on Medium. And he wrote about this, and he was kind of saying that inevitably Apple going to ARM is going to force the end of Wintel, that, Microsoft will have to go to ARM as well. And we already discussed this kind of a lot, but I don't think that's the case. I think the way that Apple goes to market with their own devices is very different than the way Microsoft goes to market, and that for all the problems that Intel has, I mean, the one advantage that Intel has is in the PC market, at least they are the lowest price slash best value. Although, AMD's obviously making a nice comeback this year too. But I mean, we already see the volume thing there with Intel, and there's really no advantage. Obviously everyone likes better battery life. Everyone would like PCs that didn't make fan sounds. But really, in the PC world, compatibility is job one. And, Microsoft's whole push for backward compatibility over many decades is not solved by the things that ARM does well. So, whatever. We'll see. I'm sure that we will see Intel get ideas from ARM. We've already seen one or two designs that have kind of big, small core designs, and I think we'll see more of that. But I don't know. I mean, ultimately, the PC market is still fairly low volume compared to mobile devices, right? I mean, smartphones.
I find that interesting that they're going to have an answer for this, because the work relationship between Intel and the PC manufacturers has to be way stronger than what it was on the Mac. The Mac is just one hardware manufacturer. Yep. When you talk about Dell, HP, Lenovo, Microsoft, is there pressure coming heavily now from those OEMs to Intel saying, like, guys, you gotta do something?
I don't think so, and I say that only because the PC market is low margin. It's they really don't make profits on anything that isn't a premium device, and the problem with the ARM stuff is it's expensive, but it delivers really low performance and horrible compatibility. Yeah, so which is the exact opposite of what PC makers and customers are looking for.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I mean, if there was some way to deliver well, actually, we do see this. So, for example, Surface Pro, the latest, a couple of versions of Surface Pro, the Microsoft product, if you get an i3 or an i5 version of it, there's no fan. It does passive cooling, right? So we already kind of we kind of, not that it gets, it doesn't get 12 or 15 hours of battery life. It's probably 6 hours of battery life or whatever. But like, this stuff is still possible. And I think the thing that people lose sight of, even Jean-Louis Gasset, who, has been in the industry for his entire life, and I'm talking going back to the 1980s, I think overlooks this part of it, because Apple has always been really aggressive moving forward with new technology and dropping off old technology. Microsoft doesn't do that. And we have incredibly old applications that still work fine on Windows today.
So I do find it interesting. I mean, do you feel that if this is very successful for Apple, which I think it will be,
mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too.
Does an HP say, okay, we need to do ARM-based chips that are possibly, performance, that have performance compared to everybody else?
No, I think obviously, like I said, I mean, we would enjoy more fanless designs. We would enjoy thinner and lighter devices, of course. Battery life would be great. But I mean, at the end of the day, when you buy a Windows laptop, one of the things you don't think about, you just don't think about it, is it runs everything that you have. Why would you think about that? But the problem with ARM is that it doesn't do that, right? So job one on Windows is it has to run everything that Windows runs, or it's not Windows. So if it can't jump over that little hoop, through that hoop, or whatever the term is, then the rest of it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you can get 20 hours of battery life if it doesn't run your apps. So that you're just talking about a theoretical device at that point. So I think what's probably going to happen is that Intel can see where the market's going, and they understand that they're going to have to come up with more efficient designs. And like I said, I think you'll see big core, small core, x86 designs that will start bumping up the battery life. There might be some, compromises from a performance perspective, maybe not, but the truth is performance has been excellent in the PC space for many years. So, if you're just getting i3 or low end i5 performance out of these things, who cares? That's fantastic. But 100% compatibility, right? I think that's the I think that's the goal. But, like Gasset, I think, like a lot of us, we're tech enthusiasts. We see things through the lens of personal computing, right? The devices that we hold and use and the things we interact with directly. And the problem for Intel is not that. They've already lost that market. It's all Qualcomm. It's all Apple, I guess. It's ARM, right? Mobile computing is ARM, mobile devices and all that. The problem is going to be the data center, right? And if you look at Intel's revenues, in fact, they just put out numbers yesterday, I think. Over half of their revenues come from sales to data centers in the cloud. And that's where they're going to lose, right? The PC market is not going to be a problem for Intel. It's just that the PC market is relatively small. Their volume for the future is kind of like the volume for the future for Microsoft. It's in the cloud. Yeah. And I think that's where Intel is going to lose big, because that's where that stuff doesn't matter.
I was going to say, how much does it matter over there?
Doesn't, unless you're a Microsoft and you're running like these, but actually Azure, I'm sure Azure, they can tailor to whatever. I mean, at some point in the chain for Microsoft up in the cloud, there are these Intel or Intel-like systems, right? Because you're running like Windows Virtual Desktop and delivering those apps, to end users, or in the future, you're running xCloud, which is actually it's AMD, but it's an x86 based chipset. You're delivering video games from the cloud. Like that stuff will have to remain on that platform. But the other workloads, which is like to say 90% of them, probably is going to be all ARM based. And if you look at the other big players, the bigger players, in some cases like Amazon or Google, those guys are already running on Linux. They're already running these systems that probably will adapt their web workloads, essentially. Like that stuff's going to adapt to ARM very easily.
What percentage of data center stuff switched over to ARM currently? Do we have a number of what?
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's not very big, but ARM chipsets are already occurring in the data center. Like that stuff, it's not like a theoretical, this is coming down the pike. Yeah. Like that stuff's already available.
Yeah, that is scary for them. I think on the consumer side of things, I think Intel's honestly, I think Intel's greatest rival is going to be themselves in adapting.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that even on the forget about the mobile port, right? The mobile portion, right? Gaming is a big driver for these. You want a beefy machine other than gaming or any kind of video processing application that you're using. You really don't need a beefy, heavy duty computer for the most part, right? Your everyday activities, they're not going to be hindered because you have an i5 and not an i9. It's not gonna it doesn't work like that. However, so right now we're in the midst of building out a new production machine. We're 4 years into this one. It's outdated. We want to start doing some more video heavy duty processing stuff with the videos that we produce. Maybe possibly going to 4K and up the bitrate, but everybody's telling me, I mean, people that I've spoken to about this, they're like, don't go with Intel. Don't go with Intel. Go with AMD. Go with AMD. And now it's like, so the one thing that you do really well, you're not doing really well anymore. It's not, we're not talking about 2008, 2007 when, you were getting your butt handed to you because of the multi-core stuff that AMD was doing. This is a very different thing because you've lost mobile. That's gone. Now you're losing out to ARM on a whole different level, right? It's no longer about these. There's no reason why Intel couldn't have dominated this, other than the fact that they couldn't get their act together. But now we're in a whole different situation where if they take another hit like this, you're right. If they lose data centers, if they start losing the consumer market, it's not good.
Right. I really feel like Intel is at great risk right now. The software equivalent to Intel is Microsoft, right? But Microsoft did make that transition to the cloud. The problem is, the things that make ARM chips in particular really interesting and useful on mobile devices, which is their efficiency and coolness, is what makes them perfectly suitable for data centers. When you look at what's the cost of running in a data center, it's two things. It's electricity, power, basically, and air conditioning, which is tied to power when you think about it. But the air conditioning is necessary to, to keep the components cool. ARM chips run cooler. So
way cooler.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge problem. So, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, look, I don't have a problem with Intel. until very well. No, I mean the vast majority of the computers I have around me are all Intel based. Their Intel chips are great. I have an Intel NUC that I use. It's a fantastic little computer. Intel is fairly secure in the PC space, although AMD has made a real resurgence with that 4000 series chipset. I don't know if you saw this news this past week, but Lenovo announced its first ever ThinkPad branded AMD based workstation.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get this wrong off the top of my head, but it is a single, what do you call it? A single chip, like a single CPU. It doesn't support dual CPUs.
What, a T14S? That one, right?
I don't know the number, but it has either 48 or 64 cores. Like it's crazy. And
I'll tell you right now which one this is.
Yeah. It's a single socket is the term I was looking for. You know, sometimes
I'm looking at the laptop, the Lenovo ThinkPad.
No. This is a tower.
Okay.
Traditional workstation. It's like $4,500. It's not cheap, but it's, I mean, AMD is starting to take away that one part of the market that, like you said, Intel kind of excelled at, which was that premium part of the market that relies on performance, which is gamers, obviously, but also, engineers and scientists and, whatever, all that, the kind of high end, like workstation class workloads. Now AMD is infringing on that, so I don't know. I think the influence of ARM will be to make Intel and AMD to create more efficient chipsets, and you'll see that. But Intel's never going to make inroads in mobile. They gave up their networking division.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to lose the data center. And then at that point, like the only thing you've got left is PCs. And PCs are, we're talking about 250 million units a year versus 1 billion to 2 billion in smartphones a year. I mean, it's not even close.
That workstation talk about 64 cores. 64.
It is 64 cores. Yeah, I couldn't remember. 64. I didn't want to overstate
but
it.
But I mean, the big story was that gaming laptop that they put out for $660.
Yeah,
Lenovo.
Yeah, but here's the flip. Actually, so since we're on Lenovo, here's the flip side of this equation, and this is why this is something else you could look up if you wanted to see it. This is also why the Jean-Louis Gasset thing is incorrect, because when you talk about the client side, ARM is never going to make any inroads on Windows. It's just never going to work. It's just because they can never offer that compatibility. And a machine that I'm testing right now, which is a beautiful piece of hardware, is something called the Lenovo Flex 5G. So it comes with a 5G SIM in it, which I can use, but I can't get 5G in Pennsylvania. Literally in this entire state, there is no 5G. But it's based on the Snapdragon 8CX, which is the highest end Qualcomm chipset for Windows 10 on ARM, right? It's a beautiful 14-inch laptop. I love the form factor. This thing starts at $1,399. The performance is terrible. It's terrible. And the compatibility is terrible because it's ARM. But Lenovo sells, I think it's ARM and or Intel. I don't know. They might even have both. And those machines, which are 100% compatible, start in the $500 range. Just to give you an idea.
Big difference.
And yeah, huge. So you have a machine that's less than half as expensive. Yes, it doesn't get the battery life, right? It doesn't. But I'm sure it's 6 to 8 hours, whatever it is, versus 16 hours or something for the Qualcomm version. 100% compatibility, excellent performance. Like it's a PC. It's what you expect. The problem with the ARM stuff is always the same. You buy it, it looks like a PC, it runs Windows. You're like, great, it's Windows. And then you realize, it doesn't work on my scanner. Oh, it doesn't run that one application I need every single day. And I just don't see them ever getting over that hump.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem.
I think so.
Yeah. The Lenovo, it's the world's first premium 5G PC. That's how
they changed the marketing, because before it was the first 5G PC.
Yeah, the world's first premium 5G PC.
Now it's premium.
It's a premium
so I lived in
one laptop.
This is what now they changed it even further. So this is what this reminds me of. I grew up in Dedham, as you know, in Massachusetts, outside of Boston. And in Dedham, there is a little house called the Fairbanks House. It was built in 1624, which you can remember because there's a giant date right on the chimney. And if you go in there, the ceiling height is probably about right here on me now. I thought people back then were really short, and it's all kind of falling apart and about, everything's, bending in on itself or whatever. And when I was a kid, that was the oldest house in America. And then over time, it became the oldest house east of the Mississippi.
Oh, God.
Because there were much older houses in New Mexico. And then after a while, it was like, it's the oldest house in New England. And then it was like, well, it's the oldest house in Massachusetts. And I think today it's an old house.
It's just an old house, yeah.
It's an old house. So I think the 5G laptop thing is like that. It's like, yeah, it's a 5G laptop. It's one of them.
Yeah. Interesting. Hey, that's so much money, though. $1,500 to start.
It's too much.
To start.
I know. It's too much. Yeah.
It does have an ultra-fast 2.8 gigahertz processor, though, Paul.
No, it doesn't. Because when you use it, it runs like shit. It's terrible.
Yeah.
No, it's not good.
I'm curious why it's a lot. You got to also remember, $1,500. These guys are banking on selling this. Nobody makes these devices thinking they're not going to sell it.
Yeah,
so somebody
they
decided,
didn't overprice it. Yeah, exactly.
And I could see already what happened here. I could see it already. They tried. They had a 5G. They wanted to do a 5G laptop. They did it with Intel.
The 5G obviously is. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but here are the two things that drive the price. So one is the price of Qualcomm CPUs or SoCs, right? So the 8CX is not cheap, right? And which is one of the big problems. Like these things are priced as premium PCs, and they just don't deliver the performance that someone would expect of a machine of that cost. And that's just the straight up. That's always been the problem. So that's one of the problems. But you just said 5G. When you add 5G to a Qualcomm system, that ratchets up the price dramatically, and that's the reason this thing is so expensive. It's the combination of those two things.
Yeah.
If this thing was that's why when you have Intel,
they ended up having to use the Qualcomm
the
chip
5G.
Because they couldn't do it with the Intel one. The battery life is probably atrocious.
Well, Intel doesn't even have a 5G. They don't even make that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
So this is you've got So the Intel version, maybe you could get it with like a 4G LTE, a SIM, or maybe they don't offer it at all. I don't know. But the version that costs $500 and something doesn't have 4G or 5G. It doesn't have anything. But that's fine. It's still, it's still like it's a way better computer. Like it's just, it's tragic.
Does HP have one yet or no?
5G.
Yeah.
Well, no. So to my knowledge, and I could be a little just out of date on this, I don't think HP has done a Qualcomm-based PC in 2 years. So I don't believe they have an 8CX-based machine, but I could be wrong on that. They do certainly offer various computers that have SIM card slots and up to 4G LTE. I'm sure if they don't have one yet this year, at some point this year, they will offer a 5G device of some kind, like a PC. The problem with this, I never understood this. Like I always felt like, and I know it's all, this is the problem with the low margin nature of the PC business. If the PC wasn't so low margin, by now every computer would just come with a SIM card slot of some kind.
I
and you use it or you don't
understand that. I
know it's cost.
Really
it's cost.
But how much more?
No, but this shows you the problem, right?
Yeah,
you will never see. Yeah, you're not going to see a $400, $500 computer with a SIM card ever. Like you'll only see it in a premium PC where they can already jack up the price, and the margins are there, and those things are profitable, and that the people who are buying into that market will pay for that functionality, right? And this is the thing. Like a SIM card slot should be a 39-cent part. It shouldn't cost anything. And if the person who bought it wants to pop a card in there and pay Verizon or whoever X dollars, X number of dollars a month, that's up to them. Like that should, it should be like my computer has a USB port. Maybe I never use it. I don't know. Like it's just there. It's fine.
And it's another source for revenue. It's another source for revenue to have these things on and partner with a Verizon or AT&T and get a piece of that. It's really funny you bring this up. I was talking to my wife about this, and we were literally just talking about why my friend of mine is doing a live or remote broadcast from somewhere, and I was helping him out, and he had to buy a 5G thing. And she was there. She's like, I'm shocked that you can't just have it like a SIM popped in there. And I was like, well, it should
be in every PC. I know it should just be a thing. It should be on the Intel motherboard,
I mean, you can,
I
but
don't get it.
you know what? I'm thinking they probably look at it this way. There's so many other ways to connect to 5G or 4G. Right? If you really want it,
Yeah, but
you'll buy a wireless adapter and call it a day and connect via Wi-Fi.
yeah, I hear you. I mean, but I think that making it that basic of a component is what puts it over the top. I think that would drive. It's one of those chicken egg things. Like I think, like this just becomes this is what a PC is.
Yeah.
It's one of the things you may never use it. It's fine. But the other thing is, and I use this example already in Windows Weekly. I apologize to anyone who listens to both shows, but Rich Woods, he lives in New York.
Mm-hmm.
He also got this Lenovo Flex 5G to review, and we were kind of chatting about it. And he said, "Hey, have you tested the 5G yet?" And I said, "Well, the problem is I live in Pennsylvania, and if you look at Verizon's map for 5G coverage, even Philadelphia doesn't have 5G. So there is no place in the entire state I could go to get 5G. The closest place I could go is New York City." So around here, I get 4G. It's not super fast, but it's pretty good. It's good. I live in the rural area, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah.
So that day he said, I'm going to go into New York and I'm going to test it in Manhattan and see what it looks like. And so I later saw that he had posted a picture on Twitter, and somewhere in Manhattan, he got download speeds. I think it was 711 megabits per second.
Unbelievable.
So just to give people an idea of how good that is. And by the way, that's not as fast as it can go. It can go faster than that. That's just what he saw. My home internet connection is 330 megabits per second. Yeah. So it's under half as fast as he was getting on a wireless thing off a little SIM. And look, I realize if you live in the middle of Montana or in some rural area, you're not going to have 5G next week. I get that. I don't have, like I said, I don't have it here. But this is the promise of 5G. And Samsung's talking about 6G, which is like, they're saying 1,000 gigabits. Whatever. Like when this is what internet is, when this is pervasive and it's everywhere, basically everywhere, that's what's going to transform the world. But again, I just feel like you can't buy a cell phone without a SIM card in it anymore. You shouldn't be able to buy a PC or a tablet, right? Like this should just be, I don't understand how this little part is expensive. It shouldn't be expensive. It shouldn't determine whether it's economically viable to make this device,
I don't think it comes down
I
to
just
the
find
margins,
it frustrating.
I listen, the manufacturers will leave out as much as possible that they could get away with. And I think this is just one of those things.
You know what?
It's one of those things that people aren't clamoring to get.
You're just, I know, even Apple does this, by the way. So there to date has never been a Mac that has come with a SIM card slot. Now that they've moved to ARM, they probably will change that. But I mean,
that's what I was thinking.
Macs are only premium computers. Why are they like that? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of strange. But
tell me, here's the question though: how many mainstream, flagship, PC manufacturers, right? That HP or whoever. How many of the flagships have a SIM card on those?
So I don't know that off the top of my head. I mean, all the PC makers offer some PCs that have it. But it's kind of a roulette wheel, like I could look at, like, you can't tell it, but this thing up here is an HP Dragonfly, right? Does that thing come off the top of my head? I don't even know if it does come with a SIM card.
The Dragonfly has it.
I think it probably does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, look down here, there's a Surface Pro 7, does not have a SIM card slot. There's a Surface Book 2, does not have a SIM card slot. I mean, it's kind of hit or miss. And even with not to pick on HP, but HP is a good example. Like, I get briefed about their various computers, their premium computers, their next step down computers, their basic computers. Premium is where you're probably going to see it, but the hit rate is 30%, maybe less. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Sometimes you'll see it and you'll be like, "Oh, good, we're moving in the right direction." And then you have the next briefing. It's like, "Yeah, this one doesn't have one."
Yeah.
It's like, why? And
bizarre, like Samsung laptops, like a Google, like you'll see it on the lower end also, which is strange to me. Like the subsidized ones, the Verizon's given out.
But that's because they're going through a carrier, right? Yeah. That's something they make special for that carrier. This Dragonfly thing that I pointed out, as you know, is an X360 device.
Yeah.
And what that means is you can flip it around. It's kind of like a thick tablet. And those types of devices tend to have SIM cards more often than not, right? Compared to a traditional laptop. So if you had like I don't have to make some, I don't know what it is, like a whatever laptop, like an HP, an actual laptop where it would, maybe the display might lay flat, but it's not going to flip around and be a convertible. You would be less likely to find a SIM on that device for some reason, right? Than you would on like something that could be used as a tablet. And I don't completely understand why, but I just, that's the case. I can't tell you why, but that is the case. Yeah.
It's one of those things. I don't think it's gonna be. Listen, I think maybe with ARM, Apple may send that trend with 5G. 5G integrated on all these devices.
Oh, they will. Yeah, and Mac guys will act like this is the greatest innovation in the world, and we've had it for many years on the Windows space. It's just been very sporadic, which again is the other edge of that dual-edged sword of all the choice you get in Windows or in the PC market, because you never, it's a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Never know. Yeah. Very interesting. I'm curious to see what comes out. Is there any hardware you're excited to get soon? Is there anything that's sticking out to you? Because I'm telling you, those the ARM-based Macs, I'm very curious on how it's going to perform, how it's going to do in the real world.
That's number one.
We don't know. But outside of that, is there anything?
No, outside of that, no, not really. So, I mean, like everyone else, I'm really interested to see what that looks like. I already have in for review an AMD. This is I think a 4500, meaning like there's a 4300, 4500, 4700 chips, which are sort of like AMD's Core i3, i5, i7. That I have it. This is an NV, so this is kind of like a mid-market HP. It's like right below the premium line. I love that computer. I love it. I love it. And the performance is amazing. The battery life is great. It's not 16 hours great. It's like 8 hours great or 9 hours great. But that machine is beautiful. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to find a 15-inch laptop that didn't weigh 30 pounds. The Surface laptop is kind of the closest to that, but I'm going to, if I ever pull the trigger on something like that, it would be next gen, and hopefully we'll see new Surface devices second half of the year. That's about it for computers. I mean,
if you're an OEM, you're probably not encouraging super fast innovation right now.
Although, for whatever reason,
holding period.
This has been a busy year, though, for PC releases. Like HP and Lenovo and Dell and Acer, too, have all... maybe it's just because of the pandemic, but it feels like they've actually sped up the releases. And it's like, guys, could you just hit pause for a month or two? Like it's there's too much going on in the world to care too much about this stuff. I mean, but they've all... like the XPS 13 is a fantastic.
Oh, it's the new one. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and the XPS 15. I asked about a 15-inch device, right? So that's probably 4.5 pounds, but that's what you're going to get for that kind of thing. And this is a 17-inch version too, by the way. Really interested in the 15-inch version of that.
Of the XPS, the new one.
XPS 15. Like that's one I could picture buying for myself, or a Surface Laptop 4, if there ever is such a thing, 15-inch version. I could see that. With the Surface Laptop presumably would be the next gen AMD chips, which would be great.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Dell is all Intel. I think that one's all Intel.
So the 15-inch is not for sale yet? The new one?
Which one?
The new XPS Dell? 15? Yeah.
I think it just came out.
Okay, so if you go to their website, it says there's the XPS 13 and there's the new XPS 13. That's how they're naming it. Oh, there is.
They're still they're still selling the old one for some reason.
Yeah. Okay.
No, the 15 I think just came out.
Yeah, this is beautiful. Beautiful laptop. I guess they removed the webcam from being underneath. Thank God.
That's a couple of gens ago. On the 13 at least. Yeah. Yep.
No, this is a great laptop. Beautiful laptop.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. Everything about it's great.
Yeah. Very nice. Paul, I got a couple questions for you. So,
okay.
So
the camera has been kind of on me for a long time, Andrew. What's going on?
I'm so
here?
Sorry. It's my tan. I'm afraid to shock people.
As much as I love looking at myself in the mirror.
Right now, if you're listening, you can probably hear a little bit of banging. There's still work going on in my house, and I'm still in the
Andrew,
process.
Andrew, Andrew,
Yes.
Andrew, can I ask you a question?
Yes, yes.
Behind you in that packaging, is that a Hellraiser doll I see?
No, it's not.
What is that?
It's the Night King.
No, okay. Right, from the Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Vera sent these. I have it in, I still have it in a box because one day this is going to be my retirement, right?
I thought it was Pinhead.
You know what? Do you want me
from
to get a Pinhead action figure? I'll get one.
No, I don't want you to. I just thought that's what it was.
I'll get one. It's fine.
I was always a little off on Clyde Barker. It's
okay. So I'm in the process now of changing everything, all the outlets. And first of all, it gets very expensive, right?
Yeah, I did. I did the whole house. I know. Yeah. I did every switch, every port.
So I'm sticking with Lutron for everything. I decided that it's a conscious effort I've made into finding everything with Lutron because that's where I started, and I hate integrating different systems.
Actually, I think I'd have to go look. I believe all of my light switches are the big flat kinds are Lutrons, and I think the power receptacles are Leviton.
Okay.
But yeah, I think all the switches are Lutron.
So it seems like
they're all the same, whatever they are.
Everything, everything's the same. So I'm in that process now too because I'm replacing 40, 50-year-old switches, and I'm like, you know what? If I'm swapping these out, it's not so much buying it; it's the actual installation, and I'm going to sit there and install them anyway. I don't want to do it again in a couple of years, so let me do it now. So I'm slowly phasing each of them out, and I'm going down this rabbit hole, like the whole smart, bridging everything together and everything again. First of all, it gets expensive for sure, but then you go down the rabbit hole of like all the stuff that you didn't know you wanted that is now automated because it's connected to whatever. So like, so I was on Lutron's website and they have battery powered smart blinds that
battery
powered smart blinds that, depending on the time of day and how much sunlight is coming in, it adjusts it for you.
Right.
And I'm thinking, I go, first of all, great, right? Brilliant. If you got a lot of windows, you got, an open layout, and which becomes a pain in the ass that you got to go and redo all of them. But this does it automatically. If anybody interested, it's called the Serena Wood Blinds by Lutron. Okay.
I've always loved this kind of thing.
It's actually, I love this stuff.
Amazing.
It gets expensive. Yeah. Listen, this is not. It's not. We're not talking about a $50 purchase here.
Does it come with a SIM card, Andrew?
You know what? You want me to ask them? Listen, your blinds, they work great, right?
Are they 5G capable?
But are they 5G capable? That's all I want to know. Can I just shield my windows in 5G?
Are there any Huawei components inside I need to worry about?
So I find it interesting though. Like, this is the next step, right? Like, somebody was saying, the dumbness of smart appliances. Like, how stupid? Do you need a smart toaster? No, but you know what? You might want smart blinds. You know what I mean? Like, there's a weird in between.
Lights and blinds and things. Right. Do something at a certain time, or smarter, do some in accordance with like the available light or whatever it is. I mean, that stuff's cool.
The way that I justify this, right? The way that I justify like doing this, obviously you can get a light switch for $3, so you could spend $20 and get, a smart one. How many times a night does somebody leave the lights on in my house and I need to get out of bed and turn it off? That's how I justify this. I leave my hallway light on for the second floor constantly, and I'm constantly getting up and turning it off. Getting up and turning it off. Well, actually,
so if you want to justify it in an even better way, there were real energy efficiencies to doing this in an automated way, right? So you're actually, I mean, it's like getting solar panels or a Prius or something. Like, it takes a while. You have to pay off the initial investment or whatever, but over the long term, like, you will save money, right? Because it's more efficient.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Really comes down to that too. I found this interesting. I found this to be a very interesting product that I had not seen before. It's very interested in how this works. But there's so much different ones now. You know what I mean? There's so many different types of smart switches, and obviously sometimes you're reaching that overkill category. But it is interesting. Like, that stupid thermostat that I have in my house. You have it too. Same one.
Oh, by the way, do you know what that is now at I'm going to call it my stepmother, but the the woman whose home we bought, the one we're living in now, she lives around the corner in like a condo type thing, and that is now it's installed in her house.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, my brother-in-law put it in for her this past week.
Very nice.
Yeah, the what's it called?
The glass thermostat.
It's the Cortana glass. Yeah, GLAS. Yep.
Johnson Control.
Johnson
makes
and
it.
Johnson glass. Yep.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
It's just a thermostat, right? Just a thermostat. But there's one feature in this thing that I have not seen anybody else do that is worth every penny of it for me. So this thermostat not only tells you the indoor temperature and the outdoor temperature, which everybody else does, it tells you the indoor how essentially how clean your air is.
Yeah, it does.
It tells you the volatile organic compounds in the air. It tells you your carbon dioxide in the house. So sometimes it'll tell me to open a window. So it does your CO2 levels, it does your VOCs, something else. So I can't remember what it was. But it essentially tells you, like, listen, outdoor.
It's air quality. Yeah.
It's the air quality, and it has this control on here. I have not seen anybody else do this. And listen, I find it fascinating that I could go downstairs and see that, oh, crap, I should open up a window. The volatile organic, smells in my house, it could be like because I painted, right?
That's why we didn't put it on in here. It would just never stop going off.
I got to tell you something. When we redid the floors in the house, right? We sanded and they sealed it with poly and everything. This thing was freaking out. Get outside now. Your volatile air compounds are it's a 10,000. You should be about 2,000 at most. But I found that, see, that's such a bizarre thing that you wouldn't think you want, but it's great. Very useful. I'm surprised Nest doesn't do this. Google doesn't do this. This is the only one I've seen do this. Other than that, you could go with any other one, but that's like the small feature that makes it worth it for me. I think there's a lot of these. There's a lot of these devices out there, and you just got to figure out which one's for you. All my outlets are now swapped. All my light switches, I got 2 more I got to do, and I'm done. It took a while, but it's worth it to do this. I find it. I just want to change things. That's it. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, we did this a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I guess. But it was this house was such a disaster when it came to that stuff. My father was the perfect combination of do it yourself and has no idea what he's doing. So yeah, $30,000 later.
Yeah, here you are.
It's just yeah.
That's how it is. What else do I have here? What's going on with 2004, Paul?
I'll spit up a little bit there. Nobody knows, Andrew. This is the since they switched to this Windows as a service thing, this is the release that Microsoft tested longer than any other release of Windows 10. And they finalized it last December. They kept it in-house until April, May, whatever that was. They kept releasing quality updates to it, fixing bugs and things, and they kept chipping away at all the known issues. And we thought this was going to be the most reliable, fastest install of Windows ever.
What happened?
I don't know. It's been a freaking nightmare. It's been one of the worst ones ever. So when they released it finally, I think it was in May actually, all of a sudden there was a giant new list of known issues that they had never mentioned once during the testing period. Like they must have known about it
during the internal testing, or when they released it.
No, when they released it publicly, they're like, by the way, here's a bunch of reasons why you might not be getting it. It's like, guys, what the hell? Like you never even mentioned any of this stuff. Microsoft's own PCs haven't been getting it. Just today, they released an update that fixes one of the big blockers. If you had a Thunderbolt dock, that was one of the many reasons people with OneDrive are having problems getting it. I mean, it's crazy. And Microsoft has just been like deadlining on this. Like they don't explain anything. It's just weeks go by. Wait, actually, it's been months now, 2 months.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I just don't. There are no words for the cluster of this release. Like it just doesn't make any sense. But,
I find it bizarre for them
Microsoft.
Because essentially their process of doing releases has been not too many hiccups. right? I mean,
Well, this
overall,
one, well,
since adapting
well,
this philosophy of releasing updates, it hasn't been this disastrous.
no, we've had some bad years. So last year, what they did was you got to remember that the original plan here was they would be 2 major releases of Windows every year, which is stupid. iOS and Android, which go out to far more devices, only ships 1 a year. Like, why would you need 2 major updates? That never worked. So starting last year, they did 1 major update in the first half of the year and 1 minor update in the second half of the year, which was really just a fine tuning of the first half release, which actually worked out pretty well. Like the first one went out really slowly, like this one is. And then the second one happened and it was a non-event, and that's the way it should be. It was nice. So we assumed this year would be like that. And this year will be like that in the sense that there will be another release in the second half of the year that's just a very minor bug fix update to what we have here in 2004. But 2004 it's going out really slow.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of blockers. Microsoft's been very, what's the opposite of transparent? Opaque, oblique, I don't know, opaque, I guess, about this. And it's really hard to understand what's happening. But I guess I would just say, look, first of all, there's no huge reason to get it. Unless you are a WSL fan, a Linux fan, you want the Windows subsystem for Linux. There's no big reason to rush it. So if you're not getting it automatically, I wouldn't go download the ISO and just install it. Unless you're like a total power user and you know what you're doing, whatever. That's always fine. But it's amazing. Like Surface Go 2, for me, not getting it. Surface Pro 7, still not getting it. It's crazy.
I gotta check my Surfaces, see if I'm getting it.
Yeah.
Is it some
kind of hit or mix? Yeah, some. Well, and it's even more confusing that because there are other blockers, and again, Microsoft's not saying what they are. So I've heard from people say, "I don't know what you're talking about with Surface Go 2. Like, I'm getting it, and I got it on mine, and it's like, okay, but I'm still not getting it on mine. So, it could be some other thing that's causing it, but I don't know what that could be. I have not. It's not like I'm connecting it to a dock and using it with all these peripherals or something. Like I just used it as a computer. Like I don't know. I can't explain it. It's been very strange.
Before we wrap it up, we're doing a quick show here. Have you been using StarDock again?
Yeah.
Dude, can I please make this look like Windows 95 and Windows Windows?
Yeah, you can.
I want it to look like Windows 98. And I want to forget about all of this. I want to forget about lights. I just want to run Winamp.
Yeah.
I want to run Winamp 3, and I just want to have.
I want everything to look like it did before the coronavirus.
I forget about recent times. I want to go back 20 years.
20 years or whatever. Yeah. There is so StarDock has this thing called curtains. If you have Windows 10, you might be familiar with window blinds, right? So window blinds was this way to theme the OS in previous versions of Windows, but window blinds required some kind of hacking to get in there and screw around with the UI. And, sometimes the screen would flash and you see the old UI, whatever. So what's cool about curtains is it uses the infrastructure that Microsoft built to do dark mode in Windows 10. So it basically is like a new mode, And what that means is it's super reliable and stable. So like when you apply one of these themes, like it sticks, like there aren't little bits that seep through or whatever. Like it's really nice. So I've actually been using the XP theme, which I think looks better. A lot of people are like, oh, XP, it's gross, but like I think it like applied on top of this kind of flat Windows 10 style. It
kind of looks good.
I think it looks nice. Like
I'm looking at it right now.
But there's other ones too. I mean, there's a bunch of themes. I mean, it looks beautiful.
There's a Mac version, Mac Mono.
Yeah.
Glass white.
There's an Amiga one, nice. OS 2.
Warp OS.
There's a bunch that are just kind of modern takes on Windows 10, right? So they have names like, like Fluent in the name, or what's that other term they use? I don't have it on this computer, but it's cool. Yeah, it's $10. Yeah. It's just a nice little, I'm gonna try.
Well, this guy, I started using. I can't remember which one I used with Windows 8.
Mm-hmm.
I used.
It was probably window blinds.
It was probably window blinds. And it worked pretty well, but I know a lot of people decided to start using these launchers, the skin over back then, because there was where the hell was the start menu? Where the hell was this? Where the hell was that? This looks really good. I'm going to download this because I saw it.
Yeah, it's a cool one. They've done the past 6 months. Those guys have released like a modern sound theme thing, a modern cursor thing. they have the sets feature, which they don't call sets, but the ability to have tabs in Windows.
You know what it is? For the first time in a very long time, people are actually sitting in front of a computer all day.
Yeah,
they got nothing else to do. So
yeah,
they're like,
well, but also Microsoft's not
crap?
doing this stuff. If I appreciate the fact that this company's kind of picked up the baton and said, look, Microsoft, if you look at like the sound control panel that's in Windows 10 today,
such a mess.
It goes back to the Windows 95. This is like an ancient user interface.
Well, and there's multiple interfaces. That's the other problem.
Yeah,
right. There's the interface that you access through settings on the newer Windows, right?
Yep.
And then there's the one that you access through the taskbar on the bottom, which is another way to kind of do it. And then you have the old school one in control panel that's been the same for 40 years.
Windows is the king of this kind of problem.
I say 40 years. Again, I'm not being literal. I mean forever. Someone's going to be like, Windows hasn't been around for that long.
I'm sorry, Andrew, but nope. It's So anyway,
so I'm looking at
this. Great.
This looks freaking great. There's one here. I don't know what theme this is on their website. Fluent Blue.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I like the dark one. There's like
I know someone's going to ask.
Probably Fluent Carbon or something.
Any strain on the CPU on the resources for the GPU?
I haven't noticed any. I have a laptop I use in the afternoons. I do like Visual Studio and stuff on. It's nice because I can test my the apps I created like in it seamless. Like it's beautiful.
Yeah. This is really nice. Stardock. They've been around forever. These guys.
Yep. Oh yeah. Literally since the 90s.
Let me think. I used to do this with Vista. And it was, by the way, back then, this was a pig, not a good piece of software back 20 something years ago. It was obviously
right because they have to build on what they have, right?
What they have.
The reason this works so well is because Microsoft did something major to the UI to support dark mode, right?
So you have dark mode. Why doesn't Microsoft do this? Why don't they say, listen, guys, you know what? You want it to look like XP?
They have actual themes.
Here you go.
Dude, you're talking about a company that can't even ship an update to Windows 10. Why would they start working on this?
2004. That's all.
Unbelievable.
Since we're talking about Microsoft, they also released an updated launcher for Android. You've heard Paul and I both praise this launcher. I really like it. Apparently,
I like it. I mean, it's
updated it.
Yeah.
I apparently did it, and I have not played around with it on my phone. I'm also, this is why I'm not getting anything. I'm in airplane mode. Jesus, Andrew. I've lost it, Paul. I'm done. I'm toast. At this point, I've lost it. I'm like, why am I not getting anything on this phone? I've been in airplane mode this whole time. What do you think? What do you think of the updated launcher?
So I've only used it just a little bit. I like it. I mean, I think the reason this is interesting is because this could be the UI we're going to get on Surface Duo, and I think that's just of interest to people, and we'll see. But I don't know. I've been using a launcher on Android called Lawnchair, right, which is like launcher. It's supposed to give you kind of a pixel-like UI, but it's a lot more customizable, and you can do things like customize the icons and all this stuff. And to me, like that's just perfect for Android. But to each his own, I guess. I mean, I'm going to try this just because I want to see if what they've done. I know it supports dark mode and landscape mode, and they have like a new news feed. But I don't know. I'm like I'm kind of set in my ways. Like I use the Google feed a lot, and I kind of miss it when it's not there.
Okay, so I just installed it here. Just switch to it. Always allow them to create widgets. Okay, so I'm in here now. Let's go. New launcher. Look at that. Bixby's gone. Thank God.
Bixby?
Yeah, Bixby. Samsung.
Oh, because you're using a Samsung.
Yeah, I'm using a Samsung. So that's always my problem because I feel like this works. Wow, this is beautiful, actually. Very good job with this. Nice upgrade. I do like it. So the big problem that I've always had is that some stuff doesn't play well on the Samsung devices. I need to spend more time with this. Obviously, it looks beautiful. It's a very clean UI. I know some people are not going to be crazy. I heard some people don't like the notifications when you swipe left. But if you've been using Bixby like me, this is pretty nice. I just got to play around with it more. I always said this is the approach Microsoft needs to take if they want to get back into the phone game, which you see them possibly. I don't know now. Who knows what their plan is with this, right? Because about a couple months ago when they announced the Neo and the Duo, I was 100% confident that we're approaching Microsoft getting back into the mobile market with phones. Now, with the pandemic and everything, who knows? But this is how they should have done this: a simple Android phone with their UI on it. That's all.
And all their apps and services.
And all their apps, yeah.
I still think that's a viable business for them. It's never going to take over the world, but
you know where
they could have a small smartphone moment.
It's viable when it comes to enterprise deployment. That's where it's going to be viable.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's a huge problem with phones for Microsoft because the whole world expects. I guess Android would put it. If it was just Android, it would be okay. But there's 50% of their customers probably use iPhones, and then I don't know. I like my that brother-in-law who put in the glass device at his mother-in-law's house. His phone just died, and his work provides him with a phone, and what he gets is some list of phones they can choose, and he chooses one, and that's what he got. And he happened to get a Samsung, but I mean, he had some range of choices, and I don't know. Would this company add Microsoft to that list? Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I do like it though.
Yeah.
I mean, I've used them in the past, and I don't know why I always revert back to Samsung. I actually don't have an answer why. I think because I use it for a little bit, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just format the phone or something, and start over because I tend to do that on the Samsung because of bit rot on Android. Right. Look at the themes. Yep. Let's see. Let's click on theme. Change theme. I apparently have a meeting today.
Okay.
From 12:30 to 1:30. Who am I in a meeting with?
It's over now.
Yeah, who the hell was I? Paul, maybe it was you.
Right. Maybe you were in my work meeting.
Yeah, I don't know.
It got canceled at the last second.
Yeah, I don't know. But go try it out. Check it out. Also, before we wrap up, I want to recommend. I found a cool little application on the Mac. I know that a lot of our viewers are Windows users, but we do have a nice portion of Mac users still. I think it's because of me, not Paul. People don't. That Paul has nothing to do with this. I found this application today. It's called Camo Studio. Camo Studio. So the way that it works, since everybody's using webcams now, right? Everybody's on a webcam. You can't even find a webcam if you wanted it. Like one of those new Samsungs, it's been very difficult the last couple months. I'm sure now it's a lot easier, but supply chain issues and also the fact that unpredicted, everybody's going to need a webcam for telepresence and telecommuting. So the big problem here is you're spending all this money on a MacBook Pro or anything, right? But most of these webcams are 720p crappy webcams because they're integrated in the display. So you can't really have this gigantic sensor in this thing. It's a small sensor. Even still to this day, people don't realize this. The MacBook Pro camera, it's the same one from like 6-7 years ago. They haven't updated this thing in years, and it looks like total crap. And they're one of the better ones. When you compare what HP's putting in, a Lenovo and Dell, their cameras are far worse than what Apple's doing. And Apple has a crappy 720p camera. So what's the answer here, right? You got to either go and buy a webcam, which it's fine. You're going to spend a couple bucks on this. Or you could run a piece of software and get a way better quality camera. So this software, Camo Studio, you connect. So what it does, you've got to download the software here, and I think it's like $40 for the software, right? And it gives you all these set controls. So you could control the focus, the exposure, the ISO, brightness, temperature, tint, hue, list goes on, right? Gamma, everything you could imagine, sharpness. And you connect it to your phone via USB. So you do Lightning to USB, you connect this, the dongle, whatever. Run the software on this side, and then now it's on the display. It connects it that way. And it works in Skype, it works in Zoom. I got to tell you, Paul, it looked unbelievable. It looked so good, and I'm like, you know what? This is a great mobile setup.
I mean, it makes sense, right?
You know, like a great example. Paul, you're on a webcam right now, right? You're on a webcam. Yep. I'm looking at your video. You're sending me about 15 frames a second. I don't know why, but your frame rate is a little bit lower.
Okay.
It's fine. It's fine. But let's say you now are looking to upgrade. You want to say, you know what? I want my picture to look a little bit better. You could easily get a dock for this, dock it, connect the rear-facing camera, and now you have, you know, a very expensive-looking setup. I've been saying this for a long time that it should be made easier to use this as a camera on Windows or even on, you know, on the Mac. Now, because of the pressure put on and the possible market for software like this, you can. I was playing around with this. It looked unbelievable. It's called Camo Studio. It works with the iPhone. I'm sure that there's Android solutions.
I don't understand why Apple doesn't support this. You know,
just built in. Yeah.
I just feel like, yeah, people would use this, you know?
They could sell docks, very expensive like tripods with an Apple logo. They could sell for like $200.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect for them. Come on, Tim, get with the program. No, I found this interesting. I'm gonna play around with this some more. I started using it yesterday, and I was very impressed on the options you have here. So you can set the resolution, the lens, so it lets you pick whichever lens you want to do, either the zoom or the ultra wide. It's total, you know, access to it. Really, I really liked it. I'm curious if it works with Android 2 on the Mac. I got to check it out, but very impressed by it. Very impressed. Let's see. Camo Studio. That is not the same Camo Studio. Okay. Let's see. It works with, no, right now it's only on the iPhone, but works very well. All right, Paul. Is that it? Let's wrap it up. What do you say? What do you think? Good?
Sure.
All right. All right, guys. Go to our website, gfqnetwork.com. Subscribe to us. We're everywhere podcasts are available for all things Paul. Go to Thurrott.com. I'll have a link for the software we discussed here for the Star Dock and the Camo Studio application in the show notes. You can go click there and download it if you want to try it out. We'll see you all next time, guys. Take care.